Okay, let's go over the old Katana for a second. What did he do? Well, he was a slow, defensive tank that stays on point and does much more damage than he needed to. He was incredibly easy to play and was very fun because of the air stall. His kit worked around slowing enemies down before killing them. So, all in all, a very simple fighter. Now, the new Katana, or the Rework. Not necessarily slow, as one of his abilities let him leap in and out of battle. He's not defensive anymore, he's passive. Playing him aggressively in a 2 or 3v1 will not work, unless both are already low when you started. He is much more fragile before to the point where it's even hard to consider him a tank. Slip of the tongue. If he gets jumped, in my personal opinion. And his damage, instead of being a steady 1 M1 plus M2 combo, and using his E and Q as utilities, not abilities, he's now capable of doing burst damage and quickly whittling down opponents, much more front-loaded. In summary, they changed a lot about this man. You guys know my first impression. Interesting, but still fun. And now, with it being a pretty decent chunk of time learning and playing him, those impressions have definitely changed, but maybe not in the ways you're probably thinking. So, I'm gonna go over everything I like now, everything I think. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I'm just gonna really pour my heart out for this. We'll start with the cons, because I do want to end up on a good note. One more thing. I want to make it completely clear that I bring up other fighters a lot, and I have not played 2/3 of the fighters in this game, so everything I say will be according to my experiences as, like, being witness to everything. So, we'll see how it goes. We'll start with the cons, just restating. One thing before I actually get into the cons. Just know that I am looking at it mainly from a character perspective, or the main point is. I'll explain what that means when I get to it, but you're smart, so you probably don't know already. Anyways, here are some personal problems. I don't like his ult for 2 reasons. The second I will get to later, but the first is that I don't like how it's so difficult to aim properly, and the radius for hitting more than one person is so weird. Like, there have been moments where there's a group of 3 people that are standing in basically the same spot, and I hit my ult, and I only hit 1 out of the 3 of them. So, someone please help me figure that out. And there was also another time in SFOF where I hit ult a little bit too early for going up the slope from mid, and it just got stuck. It just got stuck in the slope. Like, I use the ult for quick transport now instead of actually hitting people. Is it a skill issue? Absolutely. Is it still annoying? Of course it is. I also like the old E better. It was just so unique from anything I've ever seen in a PvP game before. And it was so much fun when I could just walk into an ult, press E, negate the whole thing, and throw half the damage back at them. I did that with Scythe, I did that with other katanas, I did that whenever I got the chance. Hell, I even did it in the footage on the screen once or twice. Although, I gotta be clear, none of this is a real problem, it's just something I'm bummed about. And another quick thing about the lore, let's talk about the ulti. What does it do? Well, creates a wall of wind. Okay, damn, that's really cool. It confirms that Katana has a definite but limited control of the wind. So, if he can do that, why the flip does he not have air stall anymore? I get the increased range from the swings, but why can't he air stall anymore? Wait, he can with his ult. Huh? With Slingshot, it's confirmed that it's his shoes that let him do that? I'm so sorry if I'm not picking up if he's joking or not, but I really don't know. He said it a couple times in the dialogue, so I'm just going off that. But Katana not using air stall makes 0 sense, unless they retconned him knowing how to, so now he doesn't anymore. But even that doesn't make total sense, because an air stall with the ult. Just, I don't know. But now for the real thing I'm gonna rant about. Like I said before, it's from a character perspective. It's gonna sound nitpicky, it's gonna sound like I'm hating, I promise I'm not, it's just my opinion. So, recently I've gotten into writing, and I've realized that there's a lot you have to think about when writing a character. You have to think about everything they do, and arguably more importantly, how they actually do those things. Now, I've gotten addicted enough into fighting to do deep dives about each character's limited lore and personalities, So I ask you to listen, and let's deep dive together. I know there isn't actually that much at all, but little things are revealed through every line of dialogue, either about when they get a kill, or even interactions between other fighters, which is probably the main thing. Honestly, I can't really talk because I'm definitely still a beginner when it comes to writing, but I still want to talk about this. So, for example, Subspace is the easiest to tell, for sure, but from his dialogue, you can tell he's a sadistic maniac who loves death and destruction due to his aggressive behavior and the fact that he doesn't have a line that ends in a period. I have fact-checked. I have not found a single line of dialogue of Subspace that ends in a period. But here's what happens when I read through Katana dialogue. When I read through his dialogue, the general traits I find for him is that he is an old soul, serious, no real sense of humor, burdened with purpose, but in his core is a deep love for the people he cares about, and he will do what he must to protect them. Despite his fighting style of slowing people down to finish them off, I read Katana as a very gentle soul. This is especially because of his dialogue when purchasing the Fisher-Tana skin that was released recently. I know the skins aren't canon, but there are little details that reveal personalities when using dialogue to purchase each skin. I relate to Dong Hung from Honkai Star Rail a lot, honestly, because he shares a lot of qualities with them. Maybe not in lore, but certainly in personality and mannerisms. Their personalities can also reveal body language and helps show how they fight. With the types of personalities and how they fight, I read Katana as a don't fight unless he has to kind of person. He certainly would not have certain mannerisms when he fights. Just throwing an example out there, or farming. And now I think you can see where I'm going with this. Let's take a lot at his new run animation. What was his old one? Right. It was a position where he runs to his opponents while still being ready to swing. What's his new one? He no longer runs at you, he kinda like aggressively walks at his opponents. Like, okay, that's fine, I guess. Maybe it's just like better for his back or something. Let's look at his ult. He leans forward, sheathes his katana, slices, then sheathes the katana a second time. It reads a lot like an anime to me. I can't deny that it's cool, it 100% is, but it was never my problem. My problem is that I cannot see Katana doing this at all if he actually fought. This feels like aura farming to aura farm. There are two types of aura farm, and one I feel is much better than the other. Let's take the old Katana again, who I feel also aura farms, but it's better because of how. Old Katana's ult is the camera focusing on the sword before doing a massive AoE slash. It is aura farming, but I can see him doing this move specifically like how he did it. He doesn't do anything to like actually look cool, he just charges the swing and follows suit. There's no real sense of showboating or being extra dramatic. It's to the point. It's not aura farming just to aura farm, it's just a cool move. Resheathing a katana in the rework twice is aura farming to aura farm. What was the point of sheathing the sword twice? There was no need for that. I know it sounds like a nitpick, I repeat, and I can't really deny that it's not, but these things matter. These little things matter to make the character feel alive. I just don't like how some of his animations are just aura farming to aura farm. It feels really out of character for me. He certainly isn't the type to do something like that. To summarize, I don't like how his animations don't feel like Katana. It doesn't feel like I'm playing Katana anymore. It feels like I'm playing someone trying to imitate him. But despite how long this little rant was, there are some things I need to say that I adore some things about his kit, which I will get into now. So, from a gameplay perspective, he has a much more distinct role from Banhammer. He feels more versatile in general, but that's not the thing I wanted to talk about. Let's stop talking about character now that I've gotten all of that boring stuff out of the way, and let's talk about playstyle. Every character in fighting, or any good fighting game in general, should do a good job at portraying portraying different playstyles of each character depending on their personality. But if it was entirely about the character, then you would be ignoring the fun of the player. Of course, the player could just pick someone that they like more playstyle-wise, but if you're anything like me, you stay for the character, not for the playstyle. I wouldn't have made this video if I decided to start maining someone else. So, while keeping a playstyle and animations that a character has, you also need some room for the player to use them, to give their own flair into the character. This is where something called skill expression comes into play. The definition of skill expression is, and I quote from Google AI, a player's ability to showcase their mastery through creative and impactful decisions beyond basic execution. Let me ask you something, and remember, this is my opinion. You don't have to flame me if I'm wrong or I miss something. I'm just going from my experiences. So, if I show you two coil mains, let's imagine they're both really good at coil. Would you be able to tell the difference between the two of them if I switch the usernames? From my perspective, probably not. What about Rocket? It's hard to even consider Rocket as having a playstyle, as he just point and shoot. Looking at you two hypermains, specifically those hypermains during Conquer matches, you know the type I'm talking about. A really good player of almost every fighter will look pretty much identical to each other. But for me, there are three characters that don't feel that way. There's Sword, who has so many different techs, being a jack of all trades. There's Scythe, who has two modes to do things, and Katana. And oh my god, Katana must be the most skill-expressive character I've ever seen. He's not like Coil, where even though he has 10 abilities, every Coil player looks exactly the same. And I could say the same thing about most of the characters, but Katana? Every single Katana player I went to is different somehow. There's two general ways to use Katana. There's a passive-aggressive that stays on point, and the other thing is a standard DPS. You see both playstyles so well, and even if the techs are the same, no two Katanas are the same, and it's so cool to see. The new Katana is one of the most skill-expressive characters in fighting right now, and in some cases I would even say more than Scythe and Sword. I could go into depth about Sword and Scythe skill expression, but that's for another video I may or may not make. There is so many different ways to play Katana within his two main use cases, and he's so well designed in that regard because it allows the personality of the player to shine, instead of just relying on techs and strategies. Like, even down to the M2s, there could be one main that uses certain charges way more frequently, like the full charge M2, with the 6 slashes. Honestly, I just stick to tapping it. I don't ever really use the full charge. Of course, could there have been a better balance between character personality and the players? Yeah, probably, but I still love how different one Katana could feel from another compared to the rest of the fighters. This is something the old Katana was never able to do, because no matter how you played him, there was no player uniqueness or personal identity. There was no room for the player to shine. It was just to hold M1. He didn't even have any techs, to my knowledge. The old Katana was the least expressive character. Put two of the old ones together and switch their usernames, they will look identical. But the new one completely 180s it, and I adore watching other Katana mains and just how different they are. Helps me learn and adapt to situations I haven't thought of before. However, I am coining the tech of launching Katana into the air to get out of danger before ulting as mine. I never saw anyone using that before I did, and it is mine, okay? I will fight people for it. No, I won't. I just was the first one to use it, in my experience. In conclusion, I just want to say that I'm not going to beg for the developers to change it back to the old Katana. I do want it back, but I'm definitely not going to ask for it or anything. They've made it very clear that player experience is top priority, and it makes sense. If a game isn't fun to play, no one will stick around for the lore and characters and some of the things I talked about. I was hearing the complaints about the old Katana being too broken, the fact that his range was insane for a melee, and Aristotle making it almost impossible for other melees to hit. Because It was so hard to actually kill him. And the fact that he felt really similar to Banhammer, except that he was just more single target. I can't deny that the new Katana fixes most of these problems. He's not as brain dead as before, you need to think about things, and you need to be immersed to fight well with him. His fragility compared to Banhammer is what makes him different now. Even though I feel like his animations don't really match his personality anymore, he's still very fun to play. And he's not that hard either. He's still a good intro character to the game. And about the whole lore thing, fighting is a game that is still in development, after all. There is a lot, and I mean a lot of things they still have to add for all the characters and for the world. In my book, rewriting a character completely and changing them to make them nothing like their original counterparts is 100% on the table. It's something they can do without repercussions because the world isn't finished. So if Katana's personality just changed to fit his animations, then I will eat my words, I promise. Will I still main him if his personality completely changes? Honestly, probably not, unless there's like a really good reason. So, here's my final thoughts. Could my skill issue be part of the reason I made this video? I don't actually know, but there's definitely a non-zero chance. I think the main reason is that I love him and his personality. It just really resonates with me, both in my current personality and the ideal personality I want to have as I get older. I was honestly really disheartened when months passed, and it seemed like I had not gotten any better at him. I wasn't really having fun anymore, and I kind of forgot why I liked him so much. But it all changed when the Katana skin was released. I spent around 10 minutes looking for it, and when I found it, the skin started talking about how every living being is important, no matter how small. That line right there, it reminded me exactly why I loved Katana so much. It was never actually about the playstyle, it was his character. It was Katana himself. I think that's why I made this video. That little line of dialogue right there. It really got me to look at him and his mannerisms. I made this video because he's my favorite character in fighting by far, not because I don't like him or want to nitpick little things about him. The old Katana's animations were amazing personality blends. Every move fit him, everything felt in character, and I would be lying if I said I wasn't going to miss it a lot. The new Katana, or the rework, I gotta stop calling it the new one and call it the rework. The rework sacrificed personality for the player's enjoyment, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The old Tana was really good for his character and who he is, and I like the old Katana more, but the rework is much healthier for the overall state of fighting, as he's more fun to play, it's not as annoying to fight against, in my opinion, and in the end, player enjoyment and experience matters more than anything else. A lot of people won't play fighting for the lore, they'll play it for the fun, like most games, and that's totally fine. While I'm gonna miss the old Katana, and I definitely want it back, I'm not gonna remain sad about the new version we got, because it didn't fully let us butcher his personality, and it does let the old player's personality shine. So, it gets a pass. It gets an approval for me. Thanks for watching. Okay, so I completely forgot this in the script, but I take everything back, bruh. Look at the follower Katana skin. It literally has wings. It could have been so cool to see him airstyle on that skin. Why'd they remove it, bruh? I take it back. I want it back. No!